A warm welcome back to your program, People's Imbizo, brought to you by African News Network. Thank you for joining in the conversation. And if you have just joined us, I'll have a recap of my panel today. We're discussing issues of social media monitoring. There has been issues spoken about of even trying to regularize journalists and making sure that they have licenses. We'll be talking about cyberbullying as well, and you can tell us what you think about that. I have Mr. Chamano Makadi, TUT broadcasting lecturer from media monitoring. We have Sarah Findley and Kenny Kunene from Weekly Expose, aspiring media mogul. Gentlemen and lady, we were, just trying to respond to the issues that we have been bringing in the past 30 minutes. I think, Kenny, you wanted to respond to Sarah before we took a break.
Ghana is a democracy. And if you look at the reporting in Ghana, it's very responsible. You don't see journalists being locked up every day because they have licenses. The issue of Zimbabwe is a different issue. My issue is, if the lawyers, the doctors, and so on and so on and so on can have licenses, why don't we want journalists to have licenses, including my journalists? They must have licenses. Because if you have a license, you will execute your job with responsibility. Because you will know, if I don't do that, there are consequences. At the moment, Sunday newspapers, they pick a tweet about a celebrity from an ordinary South African, and they write a story about that tweet. Front page. A story that is not true, that has not been verified. Look at Sunday stories, at Sunday newspapers. Most of the stories that seek to damage the image and character of celebrities and business people and politicians.
Let's go to the audience and see how you guys feel about having journalists getting
Can
licenses.
I just finish?
No, can you?
No, I have to finish.
But
I
it
have
has
to finish.
be very quick, because
but
we're
you got
trying
me
to get
here.
everyone to talk
No, you got me here to speak.
Yeah, show.
No, let me finish. So I'm saying, if these guys, then you see all these stories, they always say the person could not be reached for comment at the time of going to press. All of them. I have never been called. I don't see a missed call.
Maybe your phone was off, Kenny. Maybe your phone was off. Let's get a reaction from the audience. Can we get a microphone? Yeah, over there.
My name is Gifton Boweni. I object, Mr. Kenny. Journalists have the needs of the public, so they dig information before they publish or before they take it to the media house. So the information must be accurate. They can't just take information from people without a research. So if the information is serving the interest of the public, I think the information must be published. So the thing of licensing, I object.
Okay. Thank you for making that point. Do we have anyone else?
I'm Ratlehile Ratlehane, and my question is, because Mr. Kunene is saying that journalists should be given the license to practice journalism, are you saying that because there are journalists who practice journalism without a qualification, are you saying that they should not be given a platform to write about things that are of public interest that journalists, professional journalists, are not aware of?
My name is Solomon Matebula. I know that my questions will sound like I'm supporting Mr. Kenny, but let me...
I think that's allowed. It's okay to support him.
The issue of licensing, I think that we don't have to lose the content here, because as he was saying, there are a number of occasions that we have received fake stories. I mean, we must even mind about the citizens journalism. Citizens journalists write stories, fake stories. They do provide those stories to journalists. So we must mind about those people, because there are those people who supply information to journalists. If journalists can be given licensing, I believe that those things, I mean, racist remarks, racist stories will not be published. because citizens journalists generate or they contribute towards those type of malicious stories that we are encountering in South Africa and all over the world.
And in your view, sorry, before you sit down, who do you think should issue out these licenses? Should it be the government?
Yes, the government. It does not mean that as we are living in a democratic country, the government will not maintain, the quality of a media platform. The government will do that, can do that. As it is happening, he quoted about Ghana.
My name is Mary Dimenpao. Okay, Mr. Kenny, you're saying something about the licenses and stuff. So you have to bear in mind that we're a democratic country, and we as the journalists, we have the rights of freedom of expression. So what I'm saying personally, I think it won't be a goal for us to have licenses. That's dictatorship. Like, we won't afford to feel like we are slaves or whatsoever. Like, we don't have to report to the government for us to write stories and whatsoever. So a license is a no. We don't want licenses as journalists.
Another thumbs down for the license. Anyone else?
We share the same blanket, Mr. Gunen. Because in several cases, just like you have mentioned them, that they are so selective. They centralize something that is negative about South Africa at large. Take it, for instance, for TUT, the Republic of Soshanguve. When we go to strike, they are much concerned about us vandalizing and everything. But once we start to have functions where one will say we do not strike, we do not want strikes, they don't publish that. I remember last year I was the one who was leading the anti-strike. The only thing they took was the people who were saying that they want strikes. So if ever you can get licensed, you will always not be selective to certain stories that we will take this one and leave this one. Stop doing that, otherwise your thing will be futile, just like it is now. Because you're busy concerned about people who are saying again they want Zuma out. What about those who are saying they want Zuma in? We must always check this thing in all sides. And again, to support another point that was mentioned by the others, this thing of fabrications. To fabricate it to create something that is untrue to be true, to make sense to the others. Stop that.
All right. Hashtag stop it.
I'm old school, and I want to go back to the fourth estate. And that's actually the principle of journalism, where you keep an eye on what's happening in society, what's happening in government. I'm strongly opposed to licensing journalists, but I think we're deviating from what the original topic was. The regulation of social media, and what Mr. Mashlangu said, he raised an issue about citizen journalism. And I think that is a topic that we need to discuss more in depth. That's where the problem lies. That's where the bullying starts. That's where the fake news starts. I don't think the problem is with journalists. There is an editorial responsibility on media, and there are editors who have to look into things, and they have to deal with the wrong reporting. But the problem is bigger than licensing journalists. We need to look at what's happening in society and the freedom that people have there. And we need to find mechanisms to not regulate it, but to pick up on what is going wrong. And what one of the other students also suggested was maybe develop an app to pick up on things like that, and from there on perhaps start to manage it, and also include it in the training of journalism students, how to pick up on fake news. Like Sarah said, there are ways and means, but licensing, I don't agree.
Maybe just on that point, I think for the benefit also of our viewers at home, I just need to pick up on a few points. There was a point that was made by a gentleman over there. But I think we need to understand the difference between social media and let's say mainstream media in the context of what we are doing here, and of course other platforms. Of course, you have people that are going to make comments either on Facebook, it's on Twitter, everywhere. Okay. But it's not everything that you will always take as true. Of course, as a responsible journalist or media house, when you do come across a story, whether it's reported on Twitter or it's on Facebook, if you are interested, double check on that story. You can't take it as it is. A interesting point that has just been made now by Villa, and I want to say I agree with that. The problem, I don't think it's about journalists per se. Over the last couple of months, globally, I did indicate this earlier in this discussion. Whether you're talking in the UK, in the US, just yesterday I was reading some of the developments in South Sudan. Now, you are beginning to see this trend of fake news growing globally. And it's not just a South African problem. It's a global problem. And that is what I think we should be focusing on, and we've got to come up with ideas as to how best can we counter this.
And your suggestion would be?
I would say let's keep it, rather I would say, you know, let's go the traditional route of just playing a fair game of double checking on stories. If you're talking about just people in general, I mean, it's also a difficult thing, really. But
that's not happening all the time, is it? We saw what happened with Huffington Post, a blogger that contributed to an article that could not be traced, that could not be authenticated, and this is a huge media house that couldn't handle that responsibility. But yes, Sarah.
And I think, so I was going to bring up the example of the Huffington Post, and and I think from our perspective, although no doubt you'll disagree, for us it points to the effectiveness of the Press Council and the Press Ombudsman, how from the time of publishing a potentially controversial story to the editor resigning and a ruling on that, it was a week, 10 days. In what other system, in what other institution do you get that kind of turnaround time from offense to all this media outrage, a whole lot of comments, a whole lot of confusion, to a hearing, conclusions were made by the judge, and then the editor resigning? Like, that's something that we need to look at as well as a